Juliet's second date started off on a surprisingly promising note. She smiled as her date, Femi, pulled out a chair for her with the finesse of a gentleman in a cozy restaurant. "Wow, you're quite the gentleman," Juliet said, raising an eyebrow and smiling. Femi chuckled nervously. "My mum always said, a man who doesn't treat a woman well is on his way to ruin." "Smart woman," Juliet replied, genuinely impressed. He nodded, flashing a boyish smile. Femi was tall, clean-shaven, and polite, the kind of guy Juliet's mother would have praised for weeks. He asked about her work, listened intently, and even threw in a few jokes that actually landed. Is this how dates are supposed to be? Juliet wondered to herself, relaxing for the first time in days. Just as she started thinking Femi might be a hidden gem, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen, smiled to himself, and typed a quick reply. "Sorry about that," he said, looking up. "My best friend just checking in." "No what, Allah," Juliet said, shrugging. "Hope all is well." "Oh, yes, she's just, reminding me to be myself." Femi grinned. "She?" Juliet asked, tilting her head. "Yeah, my ex, don't worry," he added quickly when Juliet's eyebrows shot up. "We broke up long ago. She was my first girlfriend since secondary school. But now we're just besties." "Besties," Juliet repeated flatly, tasting the word like it was expired milk. "Yes," Femi said enthusiastically. "We still talk every day, but purely as friends. She's always been there for me, so I trust her advice. She's actually helping me navigate this dating thing. It's been a while, you know." Juliet's polite smile froze. "Helping you?" "Yes, like now. She just sent me a tip. Pay attention to her eyes when she talks. It'll show you're listening." He leaned forward dramatically, staring into Juliet's eyes like he was trying to unlock the secret of life. Juliet blinked. "Femi, you're joking, right?" Femi shook his head, beaming. "No, it's great advice, right? She's very wise." Juliet opened her mouth to reply, but his phone buzzed again. This time, Femi's giggle was that of a teenage boy getting a love letter in class. "What now?" Juliet asked, not bothering to hide her irritation. Femi glanced at his phone. "Oh," she said to compliment your smile. "She thinks it'll make you feel more relaxed." Juliet stared at him, stunned. "Wait, you mean you're taking date tips from your ex during the date?" "Yes," he said proudly, as though he'd just invented the cure for malaria. "I'm telling you, she knows me better than anyone. She just called you date number 2. She's rooting for you." "Rooting for me?" Juliet echoed, her voice a mix of disbelief and sarcasm. "Wow, how encouraging." As if on cue, Femi's phone rang. And to Juliet's horror, he actually picked it. "Hello, babe." "No, not babe, ex-babe." Femi stammered, grinning sheepishly at Juliet while holding the phone to his ear. "No, everything is going great." "Yes," I told her about her smile. "Ha ha ha, you're wicked." Juliet sat back in her chair, watching this circus unfold like a disappointed referee. Femi giggled and whispered like a schoolboy caught gossiping in class. "You want me to say what?" Femi said into the phone, lowering his voice. "Your laughter is like music to my soul." "Are you sure?" That was the final straw. "Femi," Juliet said sharply, "maybe you and your ex should just finish this date together. She seems very involved already." Femi blinked, clueless. "No, it's not like that." "Good night, Femi." Juliet stood, grabbed her bag, and marched out of the restaurant before she could break into laughter herself. Outside, she dialed Ngozi immediately. "How far?" Ngozi answered, ready. Ngozi, Femi brought his ex-girlfriend on the date. She was on the phone, live, giving tips like a sports coach. Ngozi screamed with laughter. "I swear, Juliet, your village people are after you. If I survive these 12 dates, I'm writing a book," Juliet muttered as she walked towards her car. Date number 2, ruined by an ex-girlfriend and her SMS coaching manual. When Juliet finally got home, she stepped out of her car, heels clicking softly against the pavement of her apartment's car park. The day's events clung to her like an overused perfume, annoying and impossible to shake off. "Rough day?" a familiar voice asked. Juliet turned to find Kelechi leaning against his car, arms crossed and a faint smile on his face. She hadn't even noticed him there. "Oh, Kelechi, good evening," Juliet said, trying to sound cheerful but failing miserably. "Your face is saying something else," Kelechi teased, his eyes glinting. "You look like someone who just fought 3 traffic jams, 2 angry conductors, and 1 oversight colleague at work." Juliet let out a weak smile despite herself. "It's nothing. Just a rough day. That's all." Kelechi straightened up and looked at her thoughtfully. Rough days happen. But you know, this time of the year can be overwhelming. Christmas, work pressure, family wa'ala. It's easy to let it all choke you. Just take it easy. Small, small. Juliet raised her eyebrows slightly. "Easy? When Christmas is around the corner. My mother is already making plans for my entire life." Kelechi laughed. "You're not alone. I have an uncle who thinks I should own 3 houses and 5 cars before December ends. The pressure is real. But seriously, don't let it get to you. One day at a time, I beg." Something about his calm, easy manner made Juliet feel lighter. She hadn't realized how tense her shoulders were until they began to relax. "Thanks, Kelechi. I needed that." She smiled for the first time since leaving the restaurant. Kelechi nodded, satisfied. Then for a moment, there was silence. He glanced at her, opened his mouth like he wanted to say something else, then thought better of it. Instead, he said goodnight with an awkward smile. "Good night, Kelechi," she replied softly, watching as he turned and walked towards his apartment. She stood there for a second, the corners of her mouth still lifted in a small smile. This guy wasn't bad at all. In fact, he was nice. But what exactly was his deal? Three, they say, is a charm. So Juliet was hoping her third date would finally be the spark. No drama, no surprises, just a nice evening with someone halfway interesting. Instead, she found herself seated across the table, fiddling with her straw while trying to keep her smile alive. Her date, engineer Kunle, sat opposite her like an immovable statue, calm, collected, and maddeningly quiet. He had barely said 10 words since they sat down. Not 10 sentences, 10 words. "So, Kunle," Juliet began, for what felt like the 100th time, "what do you do for fun?" Kunle looked up from his glass of water. "I rest." Juliet blinked. "That's nice. Rest is good," she said, forcing a laugh. "But surely you do something else. Hobbies? Sports?" "No." She stared at him for a second. "Ah, okay." Silence. The kind of silence that could make you hear a pin drop in another country. "So, do you like music?" she tried again. Kunle nodded once. "Yes." "Oh, that's great. What kind of music do you listen to?" Kunle took a sip of his water, like he was considering the complexities of the universe before responding. "Any." Juliet's smile froze. She glanced around the restaurant, half expecting a hidden camera to pop out and someone to yell, "Surprise!" This had to be a prank. "Kunle," she said finally, leaning forward, "are you always this quiet?" Kunle shrugged. "Yes." "Do you ever talk?" "Sometimes." Juliet's eyebrows shot up. Frustration bubbled to the surface, and she blurted, "Then why did you even agree to come out on a date? Dates are for talking, you know." Kunle stared at her blankly, unbothered. "I wanted to try something new." Juliet's eyes widened. She pointed a finger at him dramatically. "Aha, a breakthrough." He said 6 words at once, she declared sarcastically. Kunle just frowned slightly, as though her sarcasm pained him on a spiritual level. He grunted in displeasure and returned to his water. Juliet sat back in her chair and exhaled loudly. This date was over. Officially. She didn't speak another word, and they both sat in silence for another 30 minutes. Juliet sent a quick text in Ngozi. "Silent night has a new meaning. I need a refund." Juliet stood up, picked up her bag, and left without saying a word. Juliet decided to stop at the supermarket close to her house. She needed something strong to calm her nerves after enduring Kunle's one-liners all evening. She stood at the red wine section, staring at the bottles like they owed her money. "Trying to drown your sorrows," a familiar voice called out from behind. Juliet turned around. It was Kelechi, her neighbor. "This guy, you keep popping up like a ghost everywhere I go. Are you stalking me?" Juliet asked playfully. Kelechi laughed. "Not at all. Maybe it's divine arrangement," Kelechi teased, holding up his hands innocently. "Divine arrangement? I hear," Juliet scoffed, smiling. "So what are you celebrating?" Kelechi asked, referring to the red wine. "Celebrating ku? I'm looking for something to ease my stress after the most horrible date I have ever had in my life," Juliet said with exasperation. Kelechi chuckled. "It can't be that bad. My brother, it was epic bad. The guy treated me to one-word answers and complete silence. I could literally count the number of words he spoke tonight." Kelechi laughed softly, shaking his head. "Maybe he's just shy." "Not as shy as you," Juliet said, wagging a finger at him. "At least you know how to talk." Kelechi's cheeks colored slightly. "I'll take that as a compliment." "Yes, Mr. Shy Guy," Juliet teased, and they both burst into laughter.